Hello and welcome back to Mads World. I'm your host Mads and I hope you've been enjoying the show so far. If you have, please remember to subscribe, rate and review the podcast on Apple or Spotify or your favourite listening platform, and follow the show on Instagram. It's at madsworld.mp3. This week is a bit of a special episode. So back in episode 1 of this season, I was joined by Florence Barkway, YouTube sensation of Come Curious, podcast host of Fucks Given, and her latest podcast, Love High. I recently appeared on Florence's podcast, Love High, a podcast all about love and relationships. So while I'm at Glastonbury this week, I thought I would treat you guys to this episode with Florence all about dating shows, my thoughts on love, and just a really beautiful chat. So enjoy.
Hi Maddie, welcome to the podcast. How are you today?
Hello, thank you so much for having me. We're finally doing this because obviously you were on my podcast. Now I'm returning the favour.
Yes, so excited. We were, on your podcast we were talking all about heartbreaks, breakups. I think we got into some real deep, good conversations. So
it got so deep, but I really loved it. I actually found it quite a healing experience, to be honest.
Yeah, there's nothing
nice
like delving into your own stories.
Yeah, and listening to it back and editing it, I was like, this is so nice to listen to. I'm just like soothing my soul with my own voice. It was so strange.
Yeah.
Loved it though.
So we are going to be talking about dating shows because I think both of us watch probably too many.
Some would argue too many. Not me though. Don't watch enough, if I'm honest. Watch more,
just but not enough.
Need some more in my life.
Just before we jump into that though, I'd love to ask you some of my intro questions, which are, when was the first time that you fell in love?
God, I think it was probably, it's so hard to know whether it's love or lust, because I feel like every time I fall in love, I look back and I'm like, no, that wasn't it. But in the moment, you're like, this is so it, like this is real. And every time for me, it's gotten like more and more intense, or like it's been so different every time. But I guess the first time was like in high school with this guy when I was 16. He came to the school. He like came from Singapore. He was like the only bisexual in the school, or like out bisexual at the time. And I was just like fascinated by this guy. And I was like, oh my God, he's so different, so cool. And he was just like, he's just so confident. And he ended up being my boyfriend, and we like lost our virginity to each other, and it was like super cute. But I'm pretty sure that was it. And we reconnected when I went back to Australia, like at Christmas time, and went for a beer.
Really?
And it was so weird and so fun. And I think he might even come on my podcast, and we'll do like a memories ep or something.
Oh my God, did you rekindle the romance when you met up, or were you both in very different places?
I thought maybe we would kiss or something, but then it got to the end, and I don't think we knew if it was a date or if we were just hanging out. Like, it was just weird vibes. So I think we kind of just said goodbye, and we were like, this was awesome. And because I live abroad now as well, it's so good to just see familiar faces and like catch up with old people, because I guess when you live in your hometown, you do that sort of thing all the time, where you might run into people at the shops or whatever, but I never do that. So I have to like purposely organise to see my 16-year-old boyfriend from 14 years ago, something like that, 12 years ago. Catching up with my high school boyfriend was like a really wholesome experience, because he kind of apologized for weird stuff. Like, he was kind of like, when I left school, I made a lot of queer friends and non-binary friends, and I realized that I'd been such a misogynist in school, and I was just kind of a dick. And he's like, I'm so sorry for all these different things. And I was like, that is such a awesome thing, like, that you just said that. Yeah, it was really random, but he's just like become this really empathetic, cool guy. So if he's watching this, good on you.
Oh my God, that's so cool. How did you learn about love and relationships?
Probably, I was reading Conversations on Love, which is a book by Natasha Lunn, and there's this massive chapter about how you're very lucky if your parents are like the love of your life, and if your parents love you and they're there for you, and you know they've been there throughout your life. So many people don't have that, and it just like the fact that people don't acknowledge like family and parents as the great loves of their life is like quite sad, and it would be nice if people recognize that more. So I think, yeah, and my parents are still together, super happy. Like they're both like love their careers and everything. They're doing really well. So yeah, I feel like that taught me a lot about, and I was kind of a bit of a shit teenager sometimes. So I think you just like look back with a respect for them, and I'm like, wow, I sucked. So thanks.
They are role models, I think. I mean, whenever we delve into therapy with ourselves and stuff, it's always looking back to kind of how you grew up and how you were parented. And they were the first time that we ever saw what a relationship was. So it's obviously going to have a really significant impact on your, like the way you get into relationships. Do you think the fact that your parents were together and still are affect the way that you think about getting into a relationship? Like, do you feel like, you know, you will be in a similar type of relationship?
It's interesting that you say that, because I have thought about this a lot lately, and I've been thinking, I think as you get, because I'm 28, as you kind of get to the later end of your 20s and into your 30s, you think about like, if you want kids, like, you know, I've spoken to people about freezing your eggs, and kind of like asked my mom, like, you know, is it worth it? Like, should I do it? Is it just so much hard work? Is it so much stress on your life and all this? And obviously a lot of my friends are having kids and stuff as well.
Yeah.
I'm not a maternal person. I never have been desperate to have kids. I don't really want them, but I have this fear of missing out. Like when I'm 40, and if I don't have them and everyone else does, I'm like, am I gonna hate myself, and am I gonna regret that I just stayed in London and like just had fun and like just blew all my money going out and going to festivals and all this stuff. So I don't know. I just feel like I'm so different to my parents. Like they're both in the medical field. I work in media. I don't know. I'd love the idea of meeting someone that is like the love of my life, and I'm obsessed with them, but I just can't see it happening.
Yeah, that's a weird one. I think I've been in like a similar place with the whole kids thing, especially because I'm 30, nearly 31, and like there are so many people having babies around me. Like people getting married, people having babies. And I'm like, I'm just not in that place where I would be anywhere near wanting to commit to having a child with someone. I mean, firstly, I'm single, so that might be quite hard.
Yeah.
But I see loads of different like relationship structures around, like co-parenting and, you know, adoption maybe even. But I feel exactly the same as you, where it's like, am I going to get to 40 and completely regret not doing this? I actually had a conversation with my mum who was asking me, I asked her, how would you feel if you weren't a grandparent?
I asked my mum the same thing, yeah.
And she said, I would be fine with it, but I think that you would regret it.
Yeah, it's so tricky. And then I do see the appeal, like, of being old. And, like, I can see, like, my parents taking care of my grandparents now, and, like, how much they're needing to do and stuff. And I'm just like, if I didn't have someone there, like, what am I going to do? You know, it's sort of like, is it the sensible thing to do? But is that like a selfish thing to do as well? It just, the whole thing, I'm like, I don't know. I can't decide. I just want to like go to this pub or like go to this festival.
The idea of having adult children,
God.
like, no, but I like that more than having kids around me, I think.
Teenagers though, not a vibe.
No, but once they're in their 20s and they're off doing their own thing, I'm like, yeah, I made that. They're really cool.
Yeah, unless they move to London and you just miss them all the time. Because I feel like my mum is just like sad that I live here. And I'm like, imagine that I even stayed in London, had a kid here with an English guy, and then they moved to Australia. And I was like, well, that's karma to me.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, such an interesting conversation. I think I could probably do a whole episode on that. Maybe it's something for the future. But
Definitely.
let's talk about dating shows. So firstly, how do you feel about them? Do you love them or do you hate them? Do you love to hate them?
I mean, the thing is, I think I find it as the best escapism ever. And if I'm feeling sad about a boy, or I'm feeling angry about getting ghosted or rejected or whatever, or like even just like the stress of life or work or something, if I'm sitting down watching X on the Beach or Love Island or whatever, and you can see other people feeling these emotions, like getting rejected, you know, going through heartbreak, all that stuff, you kind of like, okay, it's not just me. Like, this is very relaxing, and it just removes the emotions from you, and you just get to exist in this universe for like a little bit, you know?
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. I had this weird thing with my breakup where I couldn't watch any dating shows because every time I watched them, I would just be so triggered that like one, people were falling in love, and then two, I was just like, this is not healthy. Like, these aren't healthy relationships. Like, why are they're just going to end up getting hurt? And like, it was almost like I was projecting obviously I was projecting my pain that I was experiencing onto them, which I guess I actually went into a dating show detox because of that.
Wow. So you just completely watched no dating shows at all.
Yeah.
That sounds like my nightmare.
This was like after like binging all of Love Island last year and then watching like the whole of like Too Hot to Handle and all of those things. And yeah, I was just like, you know what? It's giving me anxiety.
Yeah, and I think when you watch people, I do get what you mean. Like in Love Island, for example, what's it called? Casa Amor.
Yes.
That whole section, anxiety. Like I can't watch that. And I just think it is so mean, but it's so fascinating and interesting to watch because the people on there, you can see when you've been cheated on or, you know, when you've gone through something like that, you see how your boyfriend or whatever would have behaved in that situation where they went to cheat. Like my boyfriend went to Italy on a lad's holiday.
Yeah.
Was texting me the whole time, everything, got back, found out he'd been on Tinder the whole time, shagging loads of girls. Yeah, it was so bad. But I see Casa Amor and I'm like, this is exactly what went on that trip, and I get to see it, and that is triggering AF.
You know what? This is one of the things that I like hate about these shows, and I don't hate them, but I think I love to hate them. I think that's kind of where I'm at. But
yeah, like you watch through your fingers like that. You're like, it's like a horror show.
Like, this is toxic because basically these things are happening because one, people aren't being honest with themselves on the show about what they want. Two, they're just portraying like all these toxic traits of like not being able to what happens when you're not able to communicate in a relationship. And for me, I'm just like, if you could only just talk and be vulnerable and, you know, I think obviously what happens on these shows is that the people that go on them kind of just want to be on TV and they're not necessarily there for the right reasons.
Yeah, and if you couple up someone who might be there for the right reasons with someone who's there for, I mean, I wouldn't say going on TV to become famous is the wrong reason to do it. It is a pathway that people choose.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a lot to imagine that humans do every single thing that they do for the exact reason that it's supposed to be done for. Some people just go on for selfish reasons, which I kind of think is fair enough. But if you pair up the wrong people, like, so unfair for both parties, you know, because even if that person has gone on TV to become famous, whatever, it's just kind of the norm now. And then they still get invested with these feelings and they end up in a situation that they didn't even want to be in. And then someone else is completely invested in this. It's just like heartbreaks all around. It's not on.
I hate it.
Yeah.
But it is very entertaining. How do you feel like when you sit and binge watch these shows? How does it make you feel about love and relationships? Does it make you feel hopeful? The opposite?
It just makes me feel like this is so random, but like if everyone on there is super attractive and super hot, I'm like, I just want to go out and shag a hot boy.
So you're saying that dating shows make you horny?
Kinda, yeah. I'm like, I'm not put off. I'm more like, oh, I love English boys, especially like hot ones.
Oh
It makes me just want to go on a date.
That is so funny. I feel like I have the opposite reaction on these shows, and I'm just like, oh my god, everyone sucks. Like, is this really what we have on offer? Is this what like humans actually behave like?
Yeah. It's interesting as well that like TV, like the editing studios and everything, when they're filming, they can portray people in any way that they want. But I think that is so similar to life in that when you're telling your friends about a date or a situation, you're putting your own spin on it, and the person on the other side is telling their friends and they're putting their own spin on it. And then if there's drama, people have their different stories, and it's sort of like, okay, they are putting a certain storyline into place when they're editing things, but humans do that too. So it's not that untrue to life, because I think people do bang on about that a lot, but it's kind of, it's what happens when anyone tells any story. There's always a perspective to it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I guess in that respect as well, it's important to acknowledge the fact that reality TV producers are evil. Like they manipulate people on such a high level and provoke like arguments, emotions, and like all of these crazy things. Like I heard recently that someone on a show was literally told to go up to another cast member and make them cry.
See,
so it's like,
toxic, so bad.
And this is why it comes across as toxic as well, because maybe these people wouldn't even be acting like this if it hadn't come from the producers that are just like, how can we ignite this drama? So maybe the moral of this really is that you have to take it all with a pinch of salt, and this is not what these people would actually be like left in relationships to their own means.
Yeah, I think there is nicer dating shows as well, like something like First Dates, quite wholesome sometimes, and I think it has that like the nice stories in it too, but then again, like Love Island has nice stories in it too, when you do see a couple that you can tell that they really like do have feelings for each other and stuff. But I think shows even like the is it The Undateables or Love on the Spectrum, like I think that's quite wholesome, you know, it's not like trying to make any drama, it's not trying to hurt anyone's feelings, it's just kind of people watch it because it's feel good and they like it. It's like watching a rom-com, whereas Love Island is like watching a soap, That's
so true. I love First Dates. I think that's
so
actually
cute.
a really sweet one, and it does feels more real, because I think it's very much like a fly on the wall camera situation rather than like producers maybe like running around. I mean, we never know, but it seems that way.
Yeah, and I saw a really nice clip from that on Facebook the other day, which was like this pregnant woman was on a date with this guy, and she like revealed that she was pregnant, and he was just like, oh, that's not a problem with me. Like, I love kids. I've missed my opportunity to have kids, so I'd love to find someone to like raise a child with and that. And then at the end, they wanted to see each other again. I literally cried. I cried. It's
I've
so
definitely
cute.
cried watching First Dates.
Amazing.
Oh my
Best.
God. Let's go through some of the dating shows that we've watched and like discuss. So first of all, have you watched Love is Blind?
I have watched Love is Blind. I find it completely tapped. The people on there, deranged. Why would you go on this show?
First of all, the concept, it just makes it so. If no one knows what Love is Blind is, it's basically a show where people come on and they date without seeing each other. And by the end of this selection process, they choose someone that they want to marry. And they propose to them without having ever seen them in the flesh, touched them, been able to like gauge chemistry between them both. It's a mad concept.
It's insane. And it's so, I mean, I think sex is an important part of a relationship, and physical connection is an important part of a relationship. But it kind of goes to show that you can, well, I don't know if they're really falling in love. That's the thing. But you can get feelings for someone based on personality alone, you know?
It's kind of like having an online relationship, I would say.
Yeah.
Like back in the day
100%.
when people fell in love and had like, although it was like when people had cyber sex and all of those things. But yeah, it's a bit of a weird one, isn't it? Do you feel like you could fall in love with someone without ever seeing their face?
Probably not. I don't know if I could, but this kind of, for me, I feel like leads into this point. So I met this guy on the train recently. We had a really good conversation. It was like a 50-minute train ride. from one side of London to the other. And like, he's not my normal physical type. Like, I usually go for like dark hair and stuff, and he's like the opposite of that. But because we got on so well, like purely based on personality and the chat and the chemistry and the energy that we shared, like he asked me out at the end of the train ride and I was like, yeah, absolutely. Like, this was so fun. But on a dating app, which is purely based on physical features, I would have maybe said no, do you know? And then it's like, that's based on no personality, no conversation, no sense of humor, no stories, no nothing. Whereas this was the opposite, because I was attracted to him despite physical appearance at all. So perhaps I could fall in love based on personality alone, like if we're thinking about it in that sense.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And I think when you say it like that, then I think if someone's stories, the way that they are as a person really captures you, then it could be. What annoys me about this show is that it's all about marriage, and that like the end goal of a successful pairing is marriage, and it's like the whole American dream thing. And this is what I can't get behind, because the people going on this show are like desperate to get just to be married as a concept. Like, not to fall in love, but just to be married.
Just to be married. And it's not like, it's like that's the ultimate end goal. But I don't know if that's an American thing, or if it's a religious thing, or if it's just something, especially in America, because they have, like, they're such a capitalist country and they've got, like, terrible healthcare and all these things. You kind of have to couple up to survive in a lot of situations. Like, if people aren't completely rich, it's like, how are you? I mean, I don't even know how I'm going to buy a house all on my own. You know, you sort of... maybe in America they need to couple up to, you know, get on with it. Do you know what I mean?
Live a decent life. I have not thought about it that way at all, because I was just in my whole like, society standards, the bullshit that people are just like, you know, they're going along with the like it's following the sheep. It shouldn't be about marriage. It should be about partnership. Okay,
for sure.
So Love Island.
Yep. I love it. Do you know why I love it though? I love it because of the Twitter banter and the memes.
Yes.
And the water cooler conversation. You come into work, everyone swivels around on their desk chair and they're like, right, who's up to date? I'm like, I like the social side of it. The actual show, I mean, it's good, but like, it's not even that good. It's just because everyone watches it and you're part of something.
That's exactly why I started watching Love Island in the first place, because I didn't do it for ages, because I was like, oh God, this is trash. You know, like, why is everyone watching this? But then as soon as I did and I engaged, and I was working in an office at the time, it was so fun just to have discussions about them. Like, oh my God, I can't believe that happened yesterday.
And you feel like you know them, like you're all talking about the same people. It's like there's no drama that's actually going on in your life. So everyone just bonds over the drama that's happening to these total strangers.
I love the fact that it's like an every day of the week thing for like a while. So like you know, when you're in it, you're in it.
Yeah, and it's more Big Brother vibes than like something that's more curated and a bit more polished. Like, it's a bit more... You know, I feel like it's more natural, because even though there is producers and stuff, they sort of, it is like fly on the wall, like you're just watching people do their thing. Whereas some shows like, I don't know, I'm trying to think, something like Love is Blind. It's so like manufactured and polished, and it's, you know, you can tell that they said like, say that line again because we didn't hear it properly sort of thing. Like, it's very structured, you know?
How do you feel about the contestants that they bring onto the show? It's also very, like, all of these shows so far are very heteronormative.
Absolutely, yeah. I think, do you know what? I think the whole instant rise to celebrity is terrifying. I think I don't know how you can prepare someone for that, where they're just suddenly on the cover of the Daily Mail with their tits out or whatever from some, you know, something that's been shared or like without their permission. I think the whole, rise to fame and then sudden monetization of them as people, and then the drop off from that, it would be so traumatic and so weird. Yeah. I feel a certain sense of like sorriness for them, because I don't think anything can prepare you for that. But then at the same time, you know, most of them are quite privileged. They're all usually straight or white or, you know, conventionally attractive, tall, good looking, and they're probably going to make a shitload of money out of it afterwards. So, you know, the feeling sorry for them can only go so far. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. Okay, so the next dating show, The Ultimatum, which I know that you haven't watched, but the concept of this show is actually quite wild, and it was based on the couple of presenters who also present Love is Blind. But basically what happened in their relationship was that they were together for a while, and she wanted to get married. So she gave her partner an ultimatum and was like, well, we're either going to get married or I'm going to leave you. And he didn't want to get married, so they went off, they broke up, and they both ended up dating other people. And having had those experiences dating other people, they then realized that they were actually madly in love with each other and they wanted to be together, and then they ended up getting married. So the show is basically a replica of what happened to them. So all these couples come in who have given each other an ultimatum, get married or basically leave, and then they link up with another person in the show to test, like, basically, I guess to see what it's like being without their partner, and whether, I guess it should prove to them how much they love their partner.
Yeah, I guess it's like Wife Swap. Do you remember Wife Swap?
Oh my God.
Best show ever. And that kid with the bacon thing and the little high heels. Have you seen that kid?
No.
Oh, Google it later. It's incredible. But yeah, it is kind of like Wife Swap. But yeah, I mean, the whole concept of it, again, it's just mad. It's like, why can't you have a proper discussion with your partner about what you want? Also, I feel like it's something that you should maybe flag within the first year of being with each other. I don't want to get married, or I don't want to have kids. Like, I don't think people have enough honest conversations. And also, I'm guilty of this too. I'm terrible with, you know, expressing what I want and also knowing what I want. Like we said before, I don't know if I want kids. I don't know if I want to get married because I don't feel it right now.
Yeah.
But I feel like maybe I will. But, you know, it's just about, like, communicating, isn't it? Communicating with the person that you're with, because I just think surely you wouldn't spend all this time with someone only to go on a dating show, swap partners, and then decide, like, just talk about it.
You know what? When I heard about this show, I was like, oh my God, what a load of trash. And then I watched it.
Was it good?
And you know what? When I was watching it, I was like, this isn't a bad experiment, you know? Like, if you really want to get to the crux of the issues in your relationship, this is going to do it. Like, it's putting each person in a place where they really have to look at themselves and see what they want. And if you're going to come out of this, basically, it shows them the truth, I think, this experiment.
Yeah, but how sad if your partner just fell in love with someone else, and then I guess then they weren't right for you anyway, but you'd be so gutted.
Yeah. Yes, but also no, potentially, because then you would have realised that they weren't the right one for you.
It's true.
At the same time, like everything else, it's kind of just like, oh, these shows are just like basically putting people in a position where they're going to get really hurt.
Yeah, it's like trauma porn. Like, you know, like you're like watching people get traumatized for your pure enjoyment. It's not, it's so bad.
Yeah. I don't know why I kind of liked this show, and I feel like hopefully the listeners go out. If you haven't seen it, just give it a watch, and then jump onto the Patreon community Discord page and tell me what you think of it, because I was weirdly into it and weirdly into the kind of like, I felt like it was a form of therapy for them. Yeah.
I mean, I think as well, I have an aversion to it because it's Americans and I just prefer UK dating shows. I'm just more into like your Love Islands, your Ex on the Beach. I used to love Geordie Shores. I mean, it's not a dating show, but it was based around like relationships and, you know, one night stands and all those kind of things. So it kind of was a dating show.
Yeah.
But I'm just a UK dating show gal, you know?
I kind of know what you mean. I think there's something quite pure and innocent about UK dating shows. But they don't come with the drama of needing to get married.
They're more like rough around the edges, you know? Like they're a bit more rougher. Yeah. What were you
What
gonna say?
about what's it called? Married at First Sight.
Oh my God, Australian one, iconic. The most unhinged show of all time. And it started out like any dating show, quite innocent, just, helping people. And now they just choose the most insane people. Like, they're like doing the splits on the floor on a date and like doing weird crumping and stuff on a date. And you're like, what is going on?
Oh my God.
It's
I haven't
just,
actually seen any of those things that you're talking about.
yeah,
But it's
unhinged.
also one of those very bizarre, let's race to the finish line kind of shows.
Yes, the marriage again. I didn't ever really think about this until you've said it on this podcast, but like the obsession with the end goal. Like for me, marriage is like the best bit is the start,
Yeah.
and then I get in a relationship and I'm like bored now.
Right.
I'm bored now.
Why are we
I go now.
trying to get rid of like the whole honeymoon period of a relationship? What is it about this like extreme level of commitment?
Don't know, and also it's terrifying. For me, the commitment is the worst bit. How depressing is that? Like literally, I'm like, look at married people. I'm like, ew, I feel bad for you.
No.
I
Oh my
do.
God. I just don't think we need to get married to commit to each other. Like, I think you can
Yeah.
show up and be there and commit to your partner without getting married.
Yeah. And the honeymoon phase, it's the best. I mean,
it is.
even my single phase right now, I'm so happy. I'm just loving it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
just the idea of getting married. Oh, yeah. I'm just in like the best time of my life. And I'm just thriving, flourishing in my lane, moisturized. Yeah, it's so good.
Oh my God. Are you going on loads of dates? What's happening?
Yeah, well, not even that. Like sometimes I just don't go on any and I just love life. Like it's so good. So I'm just like the idea of getting married. I'm like, ugh, just devote all my time to someone else and like share things and like do things I don't want to do. I just do whatever I want all the time and it's so
lack
good.
of freedom that a marriage would give you.
Scary.
Yeah,
So scary.
really scary.
So scary.
We're just traumatizing everyone that's listening to this. They're like,
Imagine,
fuck.
imagine all the
I
married
wanna get
people listening
married.
and they're like, aw.
Oh,
Sorry.
damn. They're like, actually, we're really happy being married. So, fuck you
Well,
girls.
That's your prerogative.
Okay,
Be
what
scared.
about Too Hot to Handle?
Loved it, but I just think, I could never be so horny that I would give up thousands of dollars. Like, I just think I've never been in a situation. I mean, I've never been on Too Hot to Handle either, so I don't know what it would be like. If someone said, you can have 10 grand if you just don't have sex, I'd be like, okay, I just won't. Like, I'm just like not that horny of a person that I would be like, oh my God, it's worth it. It's worth the money. No, it's not. Just don't.
I think it's the fact that it's so wrong.
Naughty,
It's
yeah.
so wrong that it makes it a really big turn on for them.
It's like the forbidden love thing, This is
Yeah.
why, and this is weird, but this is why people like the whole stepbrother, stepsister porn thing, because it's just forbidden love at its finest,
Literally.
That's just why people are into that sort of thing. And I guess
Yeah.
I do see how it would be a massive turn on to like be in that situation, but I don't know, it's always the people that do like fail at it. I get so mad at them. I'm like, you idiot. Like, why would you do that? That's
I
so
know.
dumb.
It's like watching people gambling, basically. Like,
Yeah.
oh my God, how did you just lose all that money? Fuck.
Yeah, like seeing them put all their chips out or whatever and then they roll the wrong number and you're just like, that was
Yeah.
so frustrating to see.
First of all, I was really annoyed at this show the first time I saw it because I was like, okay, all these people, they're young, single, and they love sex and they just want to go out and like fuck loads of people. And I was like, that's so fine. Like, let them be. Like, let them be like this. And I was like, why are they trying to make them monogamous? Like, why are they trying to make these people that are obviously a little bit like...
Yeah, a bit slutty, a bit
more-
awesome, like live your life. Yeah.
Why are they trying to shrink them down into this social construct of monogamy?
So true. I never thought about it like that. Just let them go out and live their best whole life.
Yeah, But what I do, just to go back on that, I really love the like lessons and things that they have to do in Too Hot to Handle, because I think they learn a lot about themselves.
The
Not
painting and stuff.
Yeah, not necessarily for monogamy, but for relationships in general.
Yeah, I don't think it's good to find a partner, but I think what they learn about themselves as people that they can take
Yes.
back into the world, very
Yes.
good. I think it would stop people from doing nasty things like ghosting, or stop people from doing things like, you know, I don't know, like cheating and stuff. I think maybe it makes them into like better humans for their real
Yeah.
partner that is in the pipeline, you know?
Yeah, because I mean, they do choose people that are pretty chaotic in terms of the way that they treat other people, I think, when it comes to relationships.
Yeah.
The whole, what's his name? Harry something from like the first one, I think. He's got his like a whole podcast of his own now where he talks about relationships with people.
My God, I would love to listen to that. Gonna go check it out right after this.
Do you get triggered by the things on these shows, the fact that it's just always a very certain type of person on this show? And as someone that I feel like, personally, I feel like I have an average body and like I'm happy with my body, I'm like, I don't see representation.
Yeah, I mean, I do love to like look at the fashion and like see what bikinis they're all wearing, and I love like, you know, checking everyone out when they're super hot, but also at the same time it does make me just want to have like a crash diet and stuff, which is so toxic. Makes me feel sad about wearing a bikini when I'm at the beach and like my friend takes a pic of me and I look at it and I'm like, I'm a disgusting piece of crap. I'm like, I don't want to feel like that. And I think I'm not totally happy with my body. I think body confidence is something, I feel like body acceptance for me is realistic. Body confidence is just something I've never had. And yeah, watching those shows, I like to check it out. And then as soon as I put on a bikini myself, I'm like, sad, which is depressing but it's just true.
Yeah, I hated that one in particular because it was called Too Hot to Handle. And I was just like, so you're saying that this is what hot is. And I just don't think that's the truth. Like, I think when you think of who people are actually attracted to in real life, like an attraction to someone means that they think they're hot, right? And these people on these shows are not the only people that fall into that category.
Yeah, and I read this awesome thing actually, I think I have it here, this book. It's Too Fat, Too Slutty, Too Loud.
Ooh.
It's by Anne Helen Peterson. It is amazing. So basically she goes through like all of the most like iconic celebrities in our in kind of like our modern world. So like Kim Kardashian, Caitlyn Jenner, Lena Dunham, and kind of unpicks why they get called too fat, too slutty, too loud, too naked, too whatever.
Oh, wow.
And it's fantastic. It's so good. But one of the things she talks about is the idea that like if you see a guy that looks like a Ken doll, that you automatically have this assumption that he wants a girl who looks like Barbie, which isn't true. And we have to like unyoke this idea that a really hot person only wants another really conventionally hot person. Whereas it's like that people like different stuff, you know, like I particularly I'm not really into like gym kind of guys or whatever. Like I like different kinds of guys. And I just think people just assume that people of the same level of attractiveness automatically go together, which isn't the case. And, you know, I just think it's so interesting because I'd never really thought, I mean, I had that assumption unconsciously. Do you know what I mean?
We're also swayed by like the media and obviously everything that we've seen on there. And I think that's probably like, everyone's like base understanding of attractiveness. And I think it confuses people in dating, to be honest. Because I think people end up dating someone that they think that they should be attracted to rather than someone that they are actually attracted to.
Definitely. And you might overlook someone's crap personality because of how they look. Like they might be conventionally gorgeous, but then they might have different political values to you. They might have different social values to you. They might, you know, all these different things, like different just fundamental values overall. And you overlook these things, which are kind of red flags. Or you might overlook other red flags like violent behavior, abuse, or anything, just because you feel like you should be with this person because it looks good for you, but it's not. And it's also like that thing how you can fall in love with a friend because you might meet them, you become mates because there's probably no initial sexual attraction, and then you start to see all these beautiful things in them, and you see how they're a beautiful person and they're kind to you, they listen to you, they're funny, and then you start finding them physically attractive. Like I never really found my ex attractive. We purposely chose him to move in because I was like, he's kind of a nerd and I won't like him. And then I fell in love because of the whole everything else. So, and then I was like, he's so hot. But like at the beginning, I was like, great, he's not hot. Let's get him in, you know?
That's so funny.
Yeah. It's just like all the other things made him physically attractive to me, which was
it's like
nice.
Kourtney Kardashian and Travis Barker, like they were
them.
really good friends before.
Were
and
they?
then,
I didn't know that. That's cool.
for years.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh my God, I am obsessed with them.
They're so cute. And I just love Blink-182, so it's just a vibe. They're back in my life. I love it.
So back to the dating shows. Do you think ultimately what they teach us is a really unhealthy way of looking at relationships?
Ooh, it depends on the show. I think like we were saying with the whole Love Island, living in the fishbowl, speeding up relationships, I think that is toxic. I think the focus on the end goal of the marriage and missing the honeymoon, toxic. I don't think anyone should focus on that. I think if you see something that has a future, go in with it guns blazing, but don't look at marriage as like an end goal.
Yeah.
But then I think the ones that are like a one-off, like first dates and stuff, I think that's quite good as a role model. I think it's nice. You go on a date, you have a few drinks, you have a nice dinner. That's what a date should be. And if you get on, I like at the end of the show, they're like, do you want to see each other again? Because you need to ask yourself that at the end of a date. If you don't, just let the person know and be honest. And if you do, ask them out again, you know?
I love that actually at the end of the show. Because they're really put in the spotlight, aren't they?
Yeah, and it's like, just be honest, and it should be reflected in real life. Like, if you don't want to see someone, don't ghost them, just say it. Just tell them, you know?
So I think probably the moral of the story is don't take any dating advice from dating shows. Just see it as entertainment.
Yeah, entertainment and escapism.
Yes.
Full steam ahead, watch it for those reasons, but not as an educational documentary.
Please don't. So why do you think it is that we find them so addictive and so fun to watch?
I think because it's human, and I think it makes you feel good when you see people going through things that you are going through or have been through. I think because it's human emotions. Most of the time, I think it's quite real. Like, because you can't fake those things. Jealousy is a powerful emotion. When you see someone being jealous on TV, you can feel it in your gut.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's real. Whereas if you watch like TV, you know they're acting. So it's just like, there's less, I don't know, you don't get that human connection, you know?
I think I am just obsessed with love. I think that's why I love watching them, is that I like to see people's behavior when it comes to relationships. I like to sort of investigate them, but I guess it's like it's an interesting learning experience, I think, watching all those things. But then I think that's maybe why I personally get triggered by it, because I'm watching it in a way that's like, like actually invested in the whole love story rather than taking myself away from it.
Yeah, I do like the whole philosophical and psychological angle to it. So have you read Elaine de Botton before, Essays on Love?
No.
Fascinating. Read it, please. So, so good. It literally like kind of tells the story of this couple, how they meet, how, like all the things, and then just has this like philosophical message to each part. And it's just, that's why it's fascinating, because you can like psychoanalyze the whole thing, you know, and have your own take on it. And that's why, like, when you're having these discussions at work or on Twitter or whatever, everyone has their own angle and they see things in different ways, and people like different characters for different reasons. You know, someone can hate someone on a show and someone could love them, but you're watching the same thing. So it's just interesting that everyone has their own opinion, even though you're watching the same content, you know?
Yeah, and I love just talking about it with other people as well. I think it's really... I think I mean, people love gossiping, and it's a really great way to gossip without
Healthy.
talking about your friends.
Yeah, healthy gossiping. Unless it's on the Daily Mail or the Sun, we don't like gossiping on there.
We don't condone that.
Not nice. Not nice.
No. Well, that was amazing talking about dating apps. I would just like to ask you my final question of the podcast, which is, what is love to you and how would you describe it?
I think love is friendship, trust, and having the same future goals and aspirations in mind, or at least feeling the desire to lift up the other person to achieve theirs.
Yeah. Yeah.
For me, that's what it is.
That's what love is. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It's been such a pleasure. Loved talking about gossiping about all these dating app shows.
So good. I live for it. Thank you so much for having me.
No worries. Where can the listeners find you and your podcast?
So my personal Insta is at Maddie Carty, and my podcast Instagram is at madsworld.mp3, or you can search Madsworld on Spotify and Apple or your favourite listening platform.
Yes, and definitely go check out the last season that I was on, and then check out the new season. Actually, just go back to the first season and listen to all of them.
Got 50 eps plus, so lots of content for you guys.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. Thanks,
mate. Bye. I hope you enjoyed my chat with the lovely Florence. If you did like her episode, that was an episode from her podcast, Love High, so go and check it out on Apple or Spotify. Love and elbow taps. Peace.